Yesterday, Tuesday, Anthony Fauci appeared before a Senate committee yesterday. Hell, I don't even know what committee it was. I guess it really doesn't matter. But what I want to talk about in this first segment is this crazy bastard Rand Paul, named after Ayn Rand, the famous libertarian who disdained all forms of government assistance for everybody but herself when she was broke and poor and sick and feeble and completely screwed up. She was very quick to grab onto Social Security and Medicaid. Anyway, Fauci appeared before this committee to offer testimony from a scientific position and to warn the American people, that's you and me, among the 330 million of us, to warn us that we are heading for something unspeakable, unknowable, but certainly horrific. What is our death count in this country now? 130,000? 2.5 million infections, and it continues to go up and up and up. This was reported, what was said today, yesterday, Tuesday, in the Washington Post. And it was a month and a half ago when Rand Paul, Republican from Kentucky, got into an argument with the head of the Infectious Diseases Agency, Anthony Fauci, over Fauci's expertise on the coronavirus. This idiot Rand Paul urged Fauci to stop pretending to be the, quote, end-all, end quote, and to try out a little, quote, humility, end quote, when it came to his warnings, Fauci's warnings about the disease. That's the first time I've ever heard anyone. And Rand Paul's an ophthalmologist, isn't he? That's the first time I've ever heard anyone suggest a little humility is needed when trying to explain the workings and the potential disaster of a virus. But it gets worse. What we're stuck with is this. Despite these coronavirus cases resurging across the United States, numbers are going up all over the country. After people, governors, Republicans, right-wingers, crazy bastards declined to heed Fauci's advice and the advice of state and federal health officials about we're opening back up too soon. We can't do this. We can't do this. This is going to cause a resurgence. There's going to be a second wave. Oh, what do the scientists know? What do the doctors know? Oh, come on. Give me a break. Well, yesterday, Rand Paul had a new plea for Fauci, and it was, how about a little optimism? How about a little optimism? The Post reported it as perhaps the most animated exchange of Tuesday's Senate hearing. And that was when Rand Paul, the ophthalmologist, which means he must have a background of some sort in science, right? When Rand Paul unleashed an extensive diatribe against keeping kids out of school and daycare, But Rand Paul he wants to just open up everything. And toward the end of the hearing yesterday, he told Anthony Fauci, quote, "We need to not be so presumptuous that we know everything." End quote. What the hell is that? It's a statement of a halfwit. Rand Paul criticized Fauci for his comments about the potential for not playing Major League Baseball in October. That was back in October. Well, no, this October. At which point Fauci warned that flu season coming in October, along with the coronavirus, could produce a situation that we can't even imagine. Rand Paul thinks he can, but he's an asshole. Anyway, once this idiot was finished, Anthony Fauci laughed as he asked for a chance to respond. And as he did back in May, he assured Rand Paul that he was only providing his best advice about something that remains vastly uncertain. You see, that's the thing about science. It's constantly changing itself. Whether it is the mutation of a virus, which the Christian fundamentalists, of course, will tell you can't happen because God created everything and it was perfect the first time. But science is always changing. It has to change. Unlike religious bullshit that never changes. Why is that? Oh, different discussion. Anyway, Fauci said, quote, "The only thing that I can do is, to the best of my ability, give you the facts and the evidence associated with what I know about this outbreak." Now, if that's not humility, Rand Paul is a liberal Democrat. And to that, the idiot from Kentucky retorted, "Well, we just need more optimism." Oh, yeah, that'll work, sure. But while Rand Paul was criticizing Anthony Fauci for Fauci's unwarranted and obviously pissing off Rand Paul attitude, his certainty, Fauci's certainty, there's plenty of that in what Rand Paul was saying. Here's an example. Paul, quote, "I think government health experts during this pandemic need to show caution in their prognostications. It's important to realize that if society meekly submits to an expert, and that expert is wrong, a great deal of harm may occur when we allow one man's policy or one group of small men and women to be foisted on an entire nation." End quote. What? That, as the Post pointed out, was certainly a curious way to begin, given that this resurgent outbreak of COVID-19 only occurred after many states decided not to follow the federal guidelines during their reopening. So what the hell is he talking about, Rand Paul? And those guidelines had been just that, guidelines. States, in so many cases, declined to follow them. And multitudes of Americans have declined to follow CDC guidelines on things like wearing a mask and avoiding crowded public spaces. Oh, well, I'm not going to do that. No, why should I do that? Huh? Why should I do any of that? I'm an American. I have my First Amendment rights or my 28th Amendment rights or my whatever my rights are. I have them. And the idea that people like Fauci have forced people to, Rand Paul's word, submit to Fauci, and that he has, Rand Paul's word again, foisted these things on the public, it's bullshit. None of that is borne out, even if you concede that the guidance is uncertain. Here's Rand Paul again, quote, There are examples from all across the United States and the world that showed that young children rarely spread the virus. Let's start in Europe. 22 countries have reopened their schools and have seen no discernible increases in cases. These graphs behind me show no surge when schools open. The red line is where the schools opened. There is data from Austria, Belgium, Denmark, France, Germany, Netherlands. No spike when schools are opened, end quote. Okay, let's concede, and I think Fauci and responsible public health officials have all agreed to this. There is indeed debate about how much children should be allowed to go back to school and daycare, especially given that they tend to do better with the coronavirus than older people, and given that closed schools are a difficult obstacle to adults going back to work full time. And some European countries, as Rand Paul noted, have had success. However, there's always a however or a but. But the situation in the United States, Senator Rand Paul, notably in the United States, bears little resemblance to the situations in the countries that Rand Paul cited. All of those countries had experienced significant declines in cases or did not have many to begin with when they reopened their schools. The United States currently has about 120 confirmed daily cases for every 1 million people. Here are the numbers for those countries that Rand Paul named per million when they reopened their schools. When they reopened their schools, Austria had 6 cases daily per 1 million. Belgium had 25 cases daily per 1 million. Denmark 35, France 15, Germany 33, Netherlands 17, the United States 120 daily cases for every 1 million people. And we are going up, not down. And then as the Post reports, in addition, all 6 of those countries were on significant downswings. The numbers were dropping when they took those measures. That's not happening here. The U.S., thanks to our filthy, stinking, leadership-challenged government, unlike much of the world, is currently on an upswing in which adding to possible transmissions is particularly problematic. Mr. Rand Paul, I'll use some of your language. I mean, you obviously think that you have a great command of English, do you not? And also, many of the countries that Rand Paul used in his example also instituted strict guidelines and testing initiatives that we're just not capable of doing right now. Plus, we have people in this country who won't do it. You've heard them on television. You've seen them on Twitter or Facebook. These arrogant half-wits who talk about they're not going. Oh, no, I'm not going to do that. Incredible.
Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. You have your choice. You can listen to The Ranting with the audio podcast or listen and watch me lose control with a video podcast subscription. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com. And never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.